A homily on wisdom in exile. Beloved wanderers of the light, lend your hearts to a quiet hearing. I speak not as a master seated in dominion, but as a beggar of the noonday sun who has, by grace and grief, learned a little of the road. If my tongue bears an edge of obscurity, it is because wisdom herself, whom the ancients named Sophia, moves veiled. Pearls do not lie upon the threshing floor, they are hid in the deep. In the beginning, not a beginning counted by clocks, but the first trembling before number, there was pleroma, the fullness, a sea without shore, a song without echo. From that fullness proceeded the harmonious pairs, eons and their syzygies, radiant intelligences joined as breath is to voice. Among them was Sophia, child of longing and mother of mercy. It is told that she reached beyond her measure, not from malice but from love, a yearning to behold the abyss of the unbegotten without mediation. In that reaching, a wound opened in the music, from the wound a shadow, from the shadow, a kanoma, the realm of want. Do not stumble here, the tale is not an argument about time or maps, but a mirror for the heart. I too have reached beyond my measure. I too have made a wound, and then manufactured shadows to cover it. Thus I find the story credible. From the kanoma there rose a craftsman ignorant of his own ignorance, whom some have named the demiurge. He weighed dust and called it law, he set rulers, archons, over the circuits of the heavens and the economies of men. His work is not pure evil, for even shadow borrows shape from light, yet he mistook the borrowed for the given, and he confuses power with truth. Here I confess another complicity, I have loved the firmness of rules more than the tenderness of wisdom. It is easier to command the body than to listen to the soul. Between pleroma and kanoma there runs a secret commerce. Sophia did not abandon her lost precinct, she scattered sparks of herself, tiny embers of remembrance, into mortal clay. We are such clay, and we are such embers. Thus our life is double, we eat bread and think of stars, we suffer bruises and dream of kisses we have never received. We crave what we cannot name. This craving is not failure, it is memory. When I was young, I regarded the world as a prison, later I learned it is also a school and sometimes a sanctuary. The same stone that blocks the path serves the wise as a step. The same loneliness that gnaws the bones can become a chamber for hearing the still small voice. The archons would have us believe that necessity is the last word, that the belly, the ledger, and the decree are the sum of what is. But wisdom keeps whispering otherwise, the sum is not the whole. Consider the textures by which Sophia instructs her students. She speaks in beauty, which wounds gently, like a rose thorn that draws a drop of blood to prove the heart is still alive. She speaks in truth, which wounds cleanly, like a surgeon whose blade is merciful. She speaks in sorrow, which wounds deeply, so that our roots may descend to living water. If you have never been pierced, you have never learned her alphabet. What, then, is Gnosis? Not the hoarding of curiosities, not the swelling of the skull with secret signs. Gnosis is recognition, the sudden consent of the inner spark to the outer light, the homecoming of mind to its mother. It is a remembrance that reforms, a seeing that heals, a knowledge whose proof is mercy. The ignorant can be clever, only the knowing become kind. You will ask, how shall we walk in such knowledge, we who are tired, tempted, and taught by harsh masters? I answer with a poor man's liturgy, learned on the road. First, silence, not the sulking of pride, but the hesychia of the heart, a quiet strong enough to hear the footfall of thoughts before they enter the house. I have discovered that most of my sins arrive dressed as urgency. When I am silent, urgency loses its costume. In the clearing that remains, Sophia sometimes stands. Second, discernment. The soul, says the old teaching, can be hylic glued to matter, psychic, unsteady between earth and heaven, or pneumatic governed by spirit. These are not castes but conditions. In a single day I have been all three, before breakfast. To discern is not to despise the lower but to integrate it, to feed the body without letting it command, to honor the passions without kneeling to them, to give the mind tasks without letting it tyrannize. The archons are fond of extremes, wisdom prefers proportion. Third, poverty. I do not mean only coin. I mean the poverty that refuses to own its own story as a weapon. When I narrate myself for advantage, I crown the demiurge in my chest. When I lay down the crown and tell the truth, I do not know, I am afraid, I have wounded others, then Sophia draws near with oil and bandage. The poor in spirit are not empty, they are available. Fourth, charity. Some think charity is the lowest rung of the ladder, suitable for beginners. I think it is the ladder itself. Give bread, give time, give attention. Attend especially to the faces the archons do not count, the old who move slowly, the children who ask too many questions, the grieving who repeat themselves. When you make a little space for one such person, you reenact a cosmic courtesy, the pleroma making room for the kanoma to be healed. Fifth, the fasting of the eyes. It is possible to keep every dietary rule and still glut oneself on images. The eye is a door, whatever strides through it sets a table in the heart. I am not against beauty, I have called it a sacrament, but I am against distraction, which is beauty's counterfeit. The archons ply us with gleam and noise so that we cannot hear our hunger. Choose fewer banquets, taste them more. Are you saved, then, by such exercises? No, we are saved by visitations. But practices prepare the lamp and set it on a stand. When the bridegroom knocks, there is at least light in the room. I have received visitations I did not deserve and missed others I did not prepare for. I report this as a witness, not a theorist. Let us speak of suffering, for it is the tutor everyone meets and no one hires. The demiurge brands suffering as punishment, Sophia seals it as passage. Not all pain is purifying, some is merely cruel. Yet even the cruel pain can be braided into wisdom if we refuse to hate what it touches. When I turned my anger upon my wound, it deepened. When I offered the wound my attention without accusation, it began to teach me. What did it teach? That I am not the center, that others weep in rooms I will never enter, that the world, though broken, is not abandoned. And what of death? Here our speech should be shy. I have sat beside bodies as they cooled, I have called names that did not answer. The archons advertise death as the great foreclosure, wisdom calls it the narrow door. The spark returns by the road it came. None of us knows the hour, but each of us can practice for it in small ways. By releasing a grievance, by blessing a rival, by closing the day as though it might be the last song we sing. When death finds me thus rehearsed, I hope to greet it not as a thief but as a midwife. Some will protest, you make the world sound like a test. No, a text, a living scripture composed of weather, bread, faces, failures, and the long patience of the soil. Learn its grammar. The grammar of the world is gift. The subjunctive of the heart, what might be if we loved, is prayer. The imperative too easily becomes tyranny. Let the indicative teach you first, this is given. Then let the grateful heart conjugate. If you would know whether you are advancing, inquire of your joy. Not the froth that comes and goes with novelty, but the sober gladness that rises unbidden after you have done something costly and quiet, and no one knows. That joy is Sophia's signature. It will not defend you in debate, it will accompany you in the dark. Guard also against the piety of despair. There is a worship of sadness that masquerades as depth. I have worn its garments and admired myself in them. But despair is a luxury of the comfortable, the poor cannot afford it. When you feel seduced by grand melancholy, do a small mercy with your hands. The hands educate the heart better than arguments. You will ask, perhaps, about truth. What is true? Pilate asked, and went out before the answer could take shape. Truth is not an opinion that wins, it is a person who stays. Where truth abides, fidelity grows. Fidelity to promises, to friends, to the fragile vows we make at dawn and wish to break at noon. There are doctrines that glitter, but fidelity is the sacrament by which doctrine becomes bread. Take care, too, with names. The archons baptize our fears with grand titles, necessity, realism, adult responsibility, and then parade them across our conscience. Wisdom gives humbler names. This is greed, this is lust, this is envy wearing a clean tunic, this is cowardice in the library. Correct naming is half of repentance. The other half is beginning again. As for prayer, do not imagine it chiefly in syllables. Prayer is a stance, the turning of the face toward the source, again and again, like a sunflower's stubborn astronomy. Words help, songs help, silence helps, but the essence is orientation. I have prayed badly and been answered well. I have prayed well and been sent to wait. Thus I have concluded that prayer is not a lever, it is a ladder. Sometimes ladders do not move the sky, they teach us how to climb. Community. Yes, even for those who love hidden paths. Find at least one companion who will tell you when your private revelations begin to smell like self-flattery. I keep a friend who laughs at me in holy measure, he rescues me from both pride and despair. The archons thrive on isolation, wisdom travels two by two. Now let me speak a paradox plainly, the world is both less and more than we fear. Less, because the powers that strut are temporary, paper crowns in a rainstorm. More, because every small fidelity has cosmic consequence. A cup of water becomes a sacrament when given to a thirsty mouth, a forgiven debt rewires a city more than a parade of laws. The pleroma leaks into the street by such little ruptures. If all this seems lofty, return to this beginning, be kind to your body. It is not the enemy, it is the workshop where wisdom practices resurrection. Wash it, rest it, feed it modestly, and present it at the gates each morning like a tool kept clean. When I treated my body as a jailer, it rebelled, when I treated it as an ally, it began to teach me how to stay. At times you will be visited by clarity so complete you will fear it, a moment when the heart, the mind, and the senses agree. Do not clutch such moments, do not tweet them to the winds. Bow, give thanks, then go peel potatoes, answer a letter, mend a fence. The purpose of light is not the thrill of seeing, it is the possibility of work. Finally, and briefly, on hope. Hope is not optimism wearing a halo. It is the discipline of recall, remembering the visitations that did come, the doors that did open, the wounds that did close. When I rehearse such mercies, my spine remembers how to stand. When I forget them, I hire archons to tyrannize me again. Keep a ledger of gifts. Read it aloud when the night becomes too literate in accusations. I have said what I can. If I have spoken obscurely, forgive the fog, sometimes the meadow requires it, lest the flowers be trampled. If I have spoken truly, thank the Mother of Wisdom, who lets even the unlearned carry water to the thirsty. Walk gently. Where you find a gate, leave it open for the one behind you. Where you find a lamp guttering, cup your hands around it until the wind passes. And when you lie down, commend your spark to the fullness. Sophia, remember me. She will, for she is the wound and the healer, the exile and the home, the question and the quiet answer that waits at the end of our breathing. Go in peace, into the same streets, under the same sky, but with an older attention. The world has not changed, your eyes have. That is the first miracle and the seed of many.